I want you to sit with an image for a second. Picture your body as a high-performance hybrid vehicle, not an economy car, a well-engineered machine with two completely separate fuel systems built directly into the frame. The first tank is small. It rides up front, easy to access, always ready to go. That is your glucose tank, your sugar supply. Convenient, fast, immediately available, but critically, severely limited. The average American carries somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 calories worth of sugar stored as glycogen in their liver and muscles. That is your entire small tank. At a normal activity level, you can burn through it in a matter of hours. Now, here is what almost nobody thinks about. You have a second tank, and this one is not small. This one is massive. It sits in reserve, in your midsection, your hips, your lower back, your thighs. We are talking about tens of thousands of calories of stored energy. Premium fuel. High-density reserves that your body carefully accumulated over months, maybe years. The average American carrying even modest excess body weight is walking around with 30, 40, 50,000 calories of stored fat strapped to their body at every moment of every day. Now stop and really sit with that for a second. Because here is the paradox that should make absolutely no sense to you once you see it clearly. You are dragging yourself through the afternoon on 2 cups of coffee. You are irritable by 11 in the morning, even though you had breakfast 2 hours ago. You are completely dependent on your next meal to feel functional, while simultaneously carrying enough stored energy to fuel your body for weeks. How is that possible? How can a person feel like they are running on empty when their reserve tank is full? I need you to understand something right now before we go any further. That paradox is not your fault. It is not a willpower problem. It is not a character flaw. It is not that your metabolism is somehow uniquely broken, or that your genetics are working against you in ways that cannot be changed. The answer to that paradox is one molecule. One hormone that has been governing your entire fat storage system below the level of your awareness every single day. And until you understand what that hormone is doing inside your body, hour by hour, meal by meal, you will keep feeling trapped in a biological loop that makes no sense from the outside, but becomes completely logical the moment you see the mechanism. Stay with me through the next 20 minutes. Because what I am going to explain here is not complicated once it is laid out clearly. And the change in how you approach eating that follows from this understanding does not require you to count a single calorie, give up a single food you love, or spend more time in a gym. It requires understanding one switch and knowing exactly how to flip it. The hormone is insulin. You have heard of it. You probably associate it with blood sugar, and yes, that is part of its job. But the piece of insulin's role that almost nobody explains completely is this. Insulin is your body's primary fat storage hormone. Every single time you eat, every meal, every snack, every protein bar grabbed between back-to-back meetings, every handful of trail mix while standing at your kitchen counter, every flavored coffee drink from the drive-thru, your blood glucose rises and your pancreas releases insulin in response. Insulin signals your cells to absorb that glucose. It tells your liver to package excess energy as glycogen. And when glycogen stores are full, which they frequently are in people eating the typical American pattern of continuous eating throughout the day, insulin facilitates the conversion of remaining energy into triglycerides and locks that fat inside your adipose cells for storage. This is not pathological. This is completely normal physiology. Insulin is essential. Without it, you could not survive. The problem is not insulin itself. The problem is the eating pattern that the majority of Americans have lived inside for their entire adult lives. Eating from within an hour of waking until close to the time they go to sleep, often every 2 to 3 hours, with almost never a genuine extended window where the body has a real break from incoming food and the insulin response it triggers. In this pattern, insulin is chronically elevated, not dangerously elevated, just persistently, consistently higher than it would be if your body had regular, extended recovery windows without food. And the specific consequence of that chronic elevation, the one that matters most for understanding why stored fat stays stored, is that it blocks lipolysis. Lipolysis is the process by which your fat cells release stored fatty acids into your bloodstream to be used as fuel. Insulin suppresses the key enzyme responsible for triggering that release. When insulin is elevated, the door to your reserve fuel tank is locked. Your body cannot access the energy it stored, so it runs on sugar, constantly draining the small tank, feeling the dip when it gets low, eating to refill it, spiking insulin again, locking the fat cells back down, and storing whatever is left over, day after day, year after year. The reserve tank grows, the sugar dependency deepens. And the metabolic flexibility that would allow you to access your own stored energy smoothly and effortlessly gradually erodes until it is almost gone. Scientists call this state metabolic inflexibility. It is the loss of your body's ability to switch fuel sources cleanly, to move from burning sugar to burning fat when sugar is not available. And it is far more common in the American adult population than most people realize. You do not need to have a diabetes diagnosis or a metabolic syndrome label to be metabolically inflexible. You just need to have spent years eating in a pattern that kept insulin elevated long enough, frequently enough, that your fat-burning enzyme systems essentially went dormant from disuse. You own a hybrid vehicle, but you have been running exclusively on the gas engine for so long that the electric motor has not engaged in years. The battery is full. The motor is functional. The switch just has not been flipped. Intermittent fasting, at its biological core, is the mechanism for flipping that switch. Not through willpower, not through caloric restriction alone, through creating consistent, extended windows of genuinely low insulin, long enough for the fat-burning machinery to re-engage, for your cells to remember how to access the reserve fuel that has been sitting there the entire time. And the timeline of what happens inside your body when you stop eating, hour by hour, is more specific and more surprising than most people expect. Let me walk you through it honestly, because the part that most fasting content skips is the uncomfortable reality of the first few hours. And if I do not tell you exactly what that experience is and why it is happening, you will think something is wrong with you when it hits. You will quit. And you will quit right before the window where everything changes. You finish dinner. Maybe it is 7 in the evening, maybe 8. The first 3 or 4 hours are unremarkable. Your body is processing what you ate. Insulin is clearing glucose from circulation, and you feel normal. You go to sleep. You wake up. If your eating window typically started with breakfast at 7 or 8 in the morning, you are already 7 or 8 hours into a fast without having done anything deliberate. But here is where the paths diverge. The person who eats breakfast at their normal time continues the pattern. The person practicing intermittent fasting decides to wait. and somewhere around hour 5 or 6 of genuine fasting, which for most Americans means late morning on a breakfast skipping day, something arrives that feels uncomfortable. A low-grade irritability appears that has no clear cause. Small things that would not normally register start to feel disproportionately annoying. Your thinking slows slightly. A dull pressure settles somewhere behind your eyes, and your brain begins sending a very clear, very insistent message. Eat something. Eat something right now. Something is wrong. Here is what is actually happening. Your liver glycogen is becoming depleted. Your blood glucose has not dropped to a dangerous level. Your liver is actively producing new glucose through gluconeogenesis to maintain blood sugar. But your brain is running a pattern match against your established eating schedule. It expects food at this time. It has expected food at this time every day for years. And a hormone called ghrelin, your primary hunger signal, is spiking not because you are genuinely in metabolic distress, but because your circadian system has been trained to anticipate food at this clock time. The hunger you are feeling in that moment is real, but it is rhythmic and conditioned, not a genuine emergency signal from a body running out of fuel. Most people experience that ghrelin spike, interpret it as proof that they are dangerously hungry, and eat. Insulin rises. Glycogen refills. The fat-burning window never opens, and the reserve tank stays locked for another day. Here is the biology that most people never discover because they always eat before they get there. Ghrelin does not keep climbing indefinitely. It rises in a wave, peaks and falls, typically within 60 to 90 minutes, even if you do not eat. The hunger signal is rhythmic and trainable. If you wait through that wave, if you get to the other side of it without reaching for food, the urgency dissipates. Your body, registering that no food is coming, begins making a different decision. It starts looking for alternative energy sources, and what it finds is what it has been carrying all along. The metabolic switch, the transition from glucose as the dominant fuel to fat as the primary fuel, does not happen the moment insulin begins to fall. It happens after an extended period of sustained low insulin, typically in the range of 12 to 16 hours, depending on your metabolic state, your recent dietary composition, your activity level, and your current degree of insulin sensitivity. As insulin falls, glucagon, insulin's counter-regulatory partner, rises. Where insulin promotes storage, glucagon promotes mobilization. As glucagon rises and insulin drops, the enzymatic brake on your fat cells begins to release. The key enzyme in that release is hormone-sensitive lipase, which researchers abbreviate as HSL. Think of insulin as a security guard stationed permanently at the entrance to your fat storage vaults, keeping the doors locked anytime energy is incoming. HSL is the mechanism that opens those vaults the moment the guard steps back. When insulin falls far enough, HSL activates. It enters your fat cells and begins breaking down stored triglycerides, the scientific name for stored fat, into their component molecules, free fatty acids and glycerol. Those free fatty acids are released into your bloodstream. They are now circulating fuel, available to every tissue in your body that can oxidize them for energy. And this is the moment that people who have pushed through the discomfort and reached the other side always describe in nearly identical terms. You are 14, 15, 16 hours without food. By every expectation, you should feel worse than you did at hour 6. Instead, something unexpected happens. The fog that was sitting over your thinking lifts. Your mental clarity sharpens, in a way that feels almost counterintuitive. A steady, focused energy arrives. Not the caffeinated edge of a strong coffee, not the anxious, unstable spike of a sugar-heavy snack. Something quieter and more sustainable than either. Something that feels, if you let yourself sit with it, almost primal. The biology behind that experience is not mysterious once you understand it. Your liver takes some of those circulating free fatty acids and converts them into molecules called ketone bodies, primarily beta-hydroxybutyrate. Ketones cross the blood-brain barrier and become an extraordinarily efficient fuel source for your neurons. Your brain, which has been running on glucose and managing the oxidative stress and inflammatory byproducts of glucose combustion for years, is now running on something cleaner. The cognitive experience of that shift is real, documented in the literature, and reported consistently by people across widely varying demographics and baseline health statuses. Reduced mental fog, increased clarity, a sense of sustained, grounded focus that most Americans have not felt since their metabolism was significantly more flexible, often decades ago. Here is how to actually build this into your life in a way that works within the real architecture of American daily schedules. Because the gap between what functions in a controlled clinical trial and what functions when you have a 6 a.m. call, a working lunch, a family dinner, and a gym schedule you are barely maintaining, that gap is where most approaches fall apart. And when they fall apart, it is almost never because the person lacked commitment. It is because the protocol was not matched to their actual life, their current metabolic state, or their realistic starting point. If you are starting from the typical American eating pattern, breakfast within an hour of waking, multiple meals and snacks throughout the day, eating up until close to sleep, do not start with 16 hours. Start by pushing your first meal back by 1 hour for the first week. That is the entire intervention for week 1. Push it back another hour the following week. You are training your ghrelin system progressively rather than abruptly, which produces a far more manageable transition and dramatically reduces the early discomfort that causes most people to abandon the approach before any meaningful metabolic adaptation occurs. Gradual compression of the eating window is not weakness or compromise. It is the approach that produces sustainable adaptation, rather than a 2-week experiment that ends in frustration. Once you have established a consistent 16 to 8 window, whatever timing fits your schedule, whether that is noon to 8, 1 to 9, or some other combination that aligns with your work and social life, the fasting window becomes the non-negotiable anchor of your day. During those fasting hours, black coffee, plain tea, and water are appropriate and do not meaningfully elevate insulin in ways that interrupt the fat-burning process. They also make the fasting period practically manageable for most people in a way that significantly reduces dropout, which matters far more than theoretical protocol purity. Electrolytes become important for anyone fasting beyond 16 hours regularly. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium specifically. Because fasting-induced reductions in insulin cause the kidneys to excrete more sodium, which pulls fluid and other electrolytes with it. Many of the headaches, mild fatigue, and physical discomfort that people attribute to fasting and interpret as warning signs are electrolyte-related, rather than signs of metabolic distress. Addressing them directly resolves the symptom quickly and removes one of the most common reasons people conclude that fasting is not working for their body. Within your eating window, 3 specific variables determine how effectively the fasting period's hormonal work carries forward, rather than being immediately undone. First is how you break the fast. The first food you eat after an extended low insulin window triggers the first insulin response of your eating day, and that first insulin response sets the hormonal tone for the hours that follow. Breaking your fast with refined carbohydrates or added sugar, a bagel, a sweetened yogurt, fruit juice, a breakfast cereal, produces a sharp insulin spike that immediately re-engages fat storage signaling and terminates the fat-burning state abruptly. Breaking it with protein and healthy fat. Eggs, a protein shake with minimal carbohydrates. Salmon, Greek yogurt with no added sugar. Avocado, produces a gradual, modest insulin response that extends the metabolic benefits of the fasting period into your first meal, rather than ending them the moment eating begins. This is not about dietary perfection throughout your eating window. It is about that first meal specifically, because it matters disproportionately relative to everything else you eat that day. Second is protein adequacy across the eating window. Your body weight in pounds multiplied by 0.7 gives a practical daily protein gram target for most active adults. Distributed across 2 or 3 deliberate meals within your eating window, rather than continuous snacking, this level of protein intake ensures muscle preservation during the fat loss process, drives satiety through multiple hormonal pathways that reduce the likelihood of overeating during the eating hours, and produces the highest thermic effect of any macronutrient, meaning your body spends more energy processing protein than it does processing equivalent calories from carbohydrates or fat. Protein within the eating window is the nutritional variable most directly responsible for whether intermittent fasting produces genuine body composition improvement or simply weight fluctuation. Third is the eating pattern within the window itself. 8 hours of continuous grazing, picking and snacking and nibbling at small portions throughout the permitted window keeps insulin elevated for most of those hours. Which means the fat-burning door that the fasting period opened is closing again almost immediately. 2 or 3 deliberate meals with genuine gaps between them produces better insulin dynamics throughout the eating window, allows insulin to fall meaningfully between meals, and creates a far more favorable overall hormonal environment for the full day. Intermittent fasting is not simply about when you start and stop eating. It is about creating genuine low insulin windows, both the extended overnight and morning fast, and the shorter gaps between real meals during the eating period. The longer view, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years of consistent practice, is where the transformation that matters most occurs. Not dramatically different from month to month in any single measurement, but compounding quietly and continuously in the background. Insulin sensitivity improves. Inflammatory markers on lab panels shift in favorable directions. Visceral fat decreases persistently, reducing the inflammatory load it was generating, improving insulin sensitivity further, creating the positive feedback loop that metabolic flexibility researchers describe as the flywheel effect. Your relationship with hunger changes from reactive and urgent to calm and manageable. Your energy across the day becomes steadier and less dependent on the timing of your next meal. And your body, the hybrid vehicle you have been driving exclusively on the small tank for years, begins operating the way it was actually engineered to operate. Drawing on reserves when reserves are what is available, refueling efficiently when food is present, switching between fuel sources cleanly and without distress.